Well, the world-famous Bigfoot may have been spotted traveling across I-80 earlier this week.
The story opens with an anonymous late-night recording in a remote forest, then reconstructs the moments leading up to the footage, the scientists who analyzed it, the physical evidence discovered afterward, the growing media panic, suppressed data, eyewitness corroboration, environmental anomalies, and the unsettling implications that the event was not isolated but part of a larger, ongoing phenomenon. The footage surfaced without warning at 2:14 a.m., uploaded from an unregistered device and shared to a private server before spilling into the wider internet. It was grainy, unstable, and dim, yet disturbingly clear in all the ways that mattered. At first glance, it looked like any other nighttime wilderness recording, the kind dismissed within seconds. Wind in the trees, insects humming, the faint crack of branches somewhere beyond the reach of the camera's narrow beam. Then the camera operator froze. You could hear it in his breathing, the sudden shallow rhythm replacing casual movement. Something ahead had shifted, not quickly, but deliberately, as if aware it was being watched. The infrared sensor adjusted automatically, washing the trees in ghostly contrast. That was when the shape emerged between the trunks, far taller than a man, broad-shouldered, its outline unmistakably upright. Unlike hoax videos, this figure did not rush or roar. It stood still, partially obscured, as though calculating distance, angles, and intent. The stillness unnerved viewers more than aggression ever could. The camera zoomed slightly, hands shaking now, and the figure responded. One long step forward pressed into soft earth, producing a sound deeper than expected, heavier than any human footfall. That step became the most analyzed frame in the entire recording. The ground visibly compressed, leaves scattered outward. The sound registered as a low-frequency thud that audio engineers would later isolate and replay hundreds of times. The camera operator whispered a single word, barely audible, a reflex more than a statement. Then the figure turned its head, not toward the camera, but slightly past it, as if listening to something else nearby. Moments later, the recording ended abruptly. No scream, no chase, just darkness and the sound of someone running blindly through brush, breath ragged with fear. Within hours, copies of the video began circulating among cryptozoologists, wildlife biologists, and forensic imaging specialists. Initial reactions ranged from cautious curiosity to outright disbelief. What halted dismissal was the metadata. The file showed no signs of manipulation. The compression artifacts were consistent with the device model later identified through signal residue embedded in the audio track. The location, though anonymized, was eventually narrowed to a mountainous forest corridor known for sparse human traffic and unusually dense old-growth trees. Satellite data confirmed no roads within miles. A team of researchers quietly traveled to the site 3 days later under the guise of a routine ecological survey. What they found complicated everything. The ground where the figure had stepped showed a partial impression preserved in damp soil. Not a clean footprint, but enough to measure depth, pressure distribution, and stride length. The impression sank far deeper than a human foot of similar surface area could manage without mechanical assistance. Soil displacement suggested a weight far exceeding known primates. Nearby vegetation showed signs of recent disturbance at heights above 8 feet. Branches snapped, bark scraped, and lichen stripped away in patterns inconsistent with bears or elk. Hair samples clung to one tree trunk, coarse and dark, caught in resin. Under microscopic analysis, the strands displayed medulla structures unknown in any cataloged North American species. DNA testing yielded incomplete results, not because the material was degraded, but because segments failed to align with reference genomes. That alone triggered internal alarms. Meanwhile, audio specialists dissected the low-frequency sounds captured during the step. The vibration profile suggested mass and musculature arranged for bipedal locomotion, but optimized for silence rather than speed. One physicist noted that the resonance pattern matched no animal currently documented, yet appeared biomechanically efficient, as though evolved for long-term upright movement in dense terrain. As whispers spread, A senior wildlife official publicly dismissed the video as a hoax, citing the long history of fabricated sightings. Privately, internal memos told a different story. Emails leaked weeks later revealed urgent requests for funding, surveillance expansion, and classified consultation with defense research labs specializing in sensor deception. The most troubling discovery came from thermal analysis. Though recorded in infrared, the figure emitted an uneven heat signature, warmer at the core, cooler along the extremities, unlike any mammal of comparable size. This suggested either a unique metabolic adaptation or a physiological mechanism not yet understood. Neither explanation was comforting. Eyewitness reports began to surface independently, describing encounters in nearby regions within the same week. None mentioned aggression. All emphasized intelligence. One hiker recalled being watched from a ridgeline, feeling observed without seeing anything at first. Only when he turned did he notice the shape standing perfectly still against the trees. Another described rhythmic knocking sounds echoing through the forest at night, not random, but structured, spaced, almost communicative. Acoustic analysts later mapped these reports against known sound transmission patterns and realized the knocks could travel miles under certain atmospheric conditions. The idea that these sounds functioned as long-range signaling unsettled even skeptical researchers. Communication implied social structure. Motion-triggered cameras were deployed quietly across the region. For weeks, they captured nothing unusual. Then, several went offline simultaneously during the same 2-minute window. When recovered, the devices showed no damage, no theft, simply powered down. Battery logs indicated a sudden drain inconsistent with normal usage. One camera briefly recorded a blurred frame just before shutting off. Enlarged, it showed a dark mass leaning toward the lens, eyes reflecting faintly. The reflection pattern suggested a different retinal structure than humans or known primates, optimized for low-light environments far beyond typical nocturnal animals. Public interest exploded when a second video surfaced, shorter, shakier, filmed from a moving vehicle on a logging road miles away. In that clip, a figure crossed the road in 2 strides, vanishing into the trees with impossible smoothness. Frame-by-frame analysis showed no motion blur artifacts expected from CGI. Skeptics argued coincidence and mass hysteria, yet independent labs reached the same conclusions about physical plausibility and lack of digital tampering. Behind closed doors, discussion shifted from whether the phenomenon was real to how long it had been present unnoticed. Anthropologists revisited indigenous oral histories describing forest guardians and tall watchers. Previously dismissed as metaphor, the descriptions now read like field notes. Consistent traits appeared across cultures separated by thousands of miles. Height, silence, intelligence, avoidance rather than confrontation. Ecologists noted unexplained shifts in animal migration patterns within affected regions, as though prey species were responding to an apex presence not officially recognized. Even weather data showed anomalies, subtle pressure changes correlating with reported sightings, hinting at environmental interactions not yet understood. The original camera operator was eventually identified. He declined interviews, offering only a brief statement expressing relief that someone finally believed him. He admitted the most frightening part was not being seen, but the certainty that the figure knew he was there and chose to let him leave. As months passed, reports slowed, then stopped. Surveillance remained inconclusive. Funding quietly dried up. Yet researchers noticed something else. Forest soundscapes recorded at night had changed, rhythms altered, silences longer, as if something had moved on or learned. The footage remains online, dissected endlessly, dismissed loudly, studied quietly. No definitive answers have followed. What lingers is the uncomfortable realization that discovery does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits in the dark, takes one step forward, and leaves us to argue about what we saw while it continues watching from the trees. The silence that followed became its own kind of evidence, a vacuum where certainty should have been. Researchers accustomed to constant data streams found themselves staring at flat lines, recordings filled only with wind, rain, and the distant calls of animals that sounded cautious rather than calm. Some argued this absence proved nothing had ever been there. Others suspected the opposite, that whatever had been observed had simply adapted, learning the limits of human observation and slipping just beyond them. Late one night, months after the last reported sighting, an acoustic monitoring station deep in the forest recorded something new. It was not a howl or a knock, but a sustained, low-frequency hum that persisted for nearly 40 seconds before fading away. The sound fell below the threshold of human hearing, detectable only through specialized equipment. When translated into an audible range, it carried a strange modulation, rising and falling with deliberate cadence. No animal matched the profile. No geological process explained its timing. The signal occurred just once, then never again. A junior analyst, cross-referencing old files, noticed a faint similarity between the hum and the low-frequency impact sound captured in the original 2 a.m. footage. The harmonic structure was different, but the bass resonance was unmistakably related. That discovery reignited quiet conversations in labs that had officially closed their investigations. Files were reopened. Old assumptions were questioned. One biologist proposed that the creature's silence was not passive but strategic, a behavioral adaptation to increasing human noise pollution. Silence, in that sense, was camouflage. Another suggested that sightings only occurred when human activity briefly aligned with the creature's own movement cycles, rare overlaps in two very different patterns of existence. The idea that humanity was not being invaded, observed, or hunted, but merely intersecting with something parallel proved deeply unsettling. In a remote cabin near the original site, a forest ranger reported waking to the feeling of pressure, as if the night itself had weight. Stepping outside, he found no tracks, no sounds, only the sense of being evaluated. He later admitted he had felt no fear in that moment, only an overwhelming certainty that he should go back inside. He did, and nothing else happened. Similar accounts emerged from others who worked alone at night. None described threats, all described restraint. That restraint became the most debated aspect of the phenomenon. Predators did not behave this way. Neither did prey. Intelligence, many concluded, was the only explanation that fit the data without forcing it to break. A classified ecological impact report leaked briefly before being removed from servers. It stated that the presence of an undocumented large bipedal species could not be ruled out, and that its long-term coexistence with human populations suggested advanced avoidance behavior. The report ended with a sentence that was never officially acknowledged but widely quoted before deletion. If such a species exists, it has chosen not to be known. Public interest eventually shifted to newer mysteries, newer footage, newer fears. The Bigfoot video faded into internet archives, resurfacing only when algorithms rediscovered it for a new audience. Each time, experts repeated their positions. Skeptics scoffed, believers insisted, and nothing changed, except the forests themselves. Ecologists continued to document subtle changes, tree growth patterns altered, predator-prey balances slightly shifted, as though an unseen variable remained active. Trail cameras still vanished occasionally, always without damage, always without explanation. And sometimes, hikers reported hearing footsteps behind them that stopped the moment they turned around. No one ever claimed to see what made them. The last known update came from an automated weather station near the mountain corridor, which logged a brief, unexplained pressure drop at exactly 2:14 a.m. on the anniversary of the original recording. For 40 seconds, the air itself seemed to compress, then release. No storm followed. No explanation was offered. Somewhere beyond the reach of cameras and sensors, something may have passed through, leaving nothing behind but data points and unanswered questions. The footage remains unchanged. A few seconds of darkness and motion that refuse to resolve into certainty. And perhaps that is the point. If something wanted to be seen, it would step fully into the light. Instead, it stands just far enough back, reminding us that the unknown does not always rush toward discovery. Sometimes it simply waits for us to stop looking so hard in the wrong direction. Weeks later, a graduate student reviewing archived forest recordings noticed a subtle movement at the edge of a clearing. It was barely perceptible, just a ripple in the shadows. But something about the rhythm of the motion felt deliberate. Frame by frame, the figure became visible. Taller than a man, muscular but lean, moving with a fluidity that defied expectation. Unlike the original 2 a.m. footage, this one was filmed in near total darkness, yet its outline cut sharply against moonlight filtering through the canopy. The student alerted her supervisor, who was initially skeptical. Yet, when they enhanced the footage, patterns emerged. Long, purposeful strides, a swinging of arms in controlled balance, subtle head turns indicating situational awareness. The analysis suggested intelligence, not instinct, and a level of spatial comprehension that rivaled humans navigating in darkness. Meanwhile, local residents began reporting brief flashes of movement along ridgelines, in streams, and across logging roads. No confrontations, no sounds, just shadows appearing, disappearing, and leaving only impressions in the mind. One hunter, a man familiar with bears and elk, described seeing a figure scale a steep cliff with an ease that no known primate could manage. He swore it paused, perched at the peak, and looked back at him before vanishing. As reports accumulated, a private research collective assembled a discreet expedition. Cameras, thermal imaging, and audio recorders were deployed systematically along likely routes. Weeks passed. Most devices recorded nothing, but one camera captured a faint silhouette crossing the forest floor. The thermal signature was low, uneven, concentrated along the core, much like the first incident. Analysis confirmed weight, height, and gait inconsistent with bears, humans, or any known wildlife. The team concluded that whatever they were observing was real, intelligent, and highly adaptive. A biologist suggested they might be witnessing a previously unknown species of large primate, possibly ancestral survivors from a time when forests covered far more territory. Others countered that evolutionary isolation alone couldn't explain the evident intelligence. The debate continued in hushed circles, largely removed from public scrutiny. Funding was precarious, and the risk of sensational exposure high. Then, one night, audio recorders captured a sequence of low-frequency pulses, patterned, rhythmic, almost musical. It lasted for several minutes, shifting in pitch and intensity. The expedition scientists analyzed the signal, cross-referencing prior sightings and acoustic data. The conclusion was startling. It appeared to be a method of communication, sophisticated and intentional. Attempts to mimic or respond were made cautiously. No immediate reaction was recorded, but the next morning, cameras revealed subtle changes in the underbrush. Paths widened, leaves displaced, impressions of movement. The team realized they were not just observing, but interacting, unwitting participants in a silent exchange with an intelligent entity. The footage was archived, reviewed repeatedly, and studied in lab conditions. Each iteration revealed minor details, how the figure balanced on uneven terrain, how it avoided snapping branches, how its presence influenced local wildlife. The realization dawned that humans had been only a minor presence in these forests, and the creature, or creatures, had evolved strategies to maintain invisibility. Further environmental surveys uncovered unusual phenomena. Streams shifted slightly, as if redirected. Predator activity altered subtly. Certain plants showed signs of being flattened in repetitive patterns consistent with large, deliberate steps. These indirect signs were frustratingly elusive, always pointing toward the creature's presence without confirming direct interaction. Months into the study, a new recording surfaced. Unlike previous footage, this one was captured by a drone operating under silent mode, hovering at treetop level. It showed multiple figures moving in a coordinated manner through the canopy. They descended, briefly interacting with the forest floor, then vanished seamlessly into the darkness. The researchers were stunned. This was not an isolated individual, but a small, intelligent group. Their coordination suggested social structure, planning, and perhaps even culture. Biologists began comparing their behavior with known primates. Patterns emerged: foraging strategies, communication cues, and protective measures. But nothing matched the precision and stealth observed. Thermal imaging confirmed that each individual emitted the same uneven heat signature seen previously. Not constant like a human's, not fully adaptive like a reptile's, something in between. Meanwhile, satellite monitoring picked up fleeting anomalies, shifts in canopy density, areas of flattened vegetation, and subtle ground depressions consistent with large bipedal movement. A climatologist noted that the anomalies correlated with minor microclimate variations. The creatures seemed to influence their immediate environment, perhaps through movement patterns or body heat, further evidence of their environmental integration. News of the drone footage leaked briefly, prompting skepticism, ridicule, and viral attention online. Some called it CGI, others cited decades of similar claims. But scientists recognized the patterns. The evidence was internally consistent, verifiable, and eerily specific. The original 2 a.m. footage became even more significant in context. It was the first confirmed encounter, a single thread connecting a growing body of evidence pointing toward intelligence, adaptability, and strategic presence. Psychologists studying local witnesses noted recurring themes. The creatures elicited no immediate fear, only a sense of observation, evaluation, and deliberate choice. Witnesses often described a feeling of being seen through rather than threatened. Researchers speculated that this implied a form of awareness of human cognition, perhaps understanding the limits of human perception. The forest itself became a laboratory. Motion sensors, thermal arrays, and acoustic devices created overlapping zones of observation. Yet the creatures consistently remained one step ahead. Every time the team thought they had captured definitive evidence, the data would subtly shift. Cameras damaged without explanation, audio files corrupted, paths altered. The implication was undeniable. These creatures were not only intelligent, but capable of anticipating human monitoring. Even minor interventions produced behavioral changes. Artificial sounds broadcasted at night prompted adjustments in movement patterns. Infrared lights were ignored if motionless, but avoided when mobile. Such evidence suggested learning, memory, and adaptability, hallmarks of advanced cognition. Eventually, a paleontologist was consulted to explore the evolutionary context. Fossil records hinted at large, upright primates in North America tens of thousands of years ago. No lineage was thought to survive, yet the morphology observed in the footage aligned almost perfectly with those ancient structures, as though a living lineage had persisted in isolation. Genetic material remained elusive. Hair, fecal samples, and other traces resisted collection. The DNA extracted from prior strands remained fragmented, partially unclassifiable, suggesting either extreme divergence or contamination by unknown biological mechanisms. Researchers debated, were these creatures a relic population or something entirely separate that had developed independently? Field reports became the lifeblood of study. Each sighting added nuance: diet, nocturnal movement patterns, interaction with other species, subtle communication methods. The consensus began forming. The Bigfoot phenomenon was not myth, hoax, or mass delusion. It was an undiscovered intelligent species operating in parallel with humans, expertly avoiding detection. Authorities remained silent publicly, concerned with liability, disruption, and panic. Internally, protocols for study, containment, and monitoring were quietly expanded. Then, for the first time, direct observation occurred at a distance. Night vision scopes captured a figure studying researchers from an elevated ridge. Not aggressive, not fleeing, just observing. The creature's posture and gaze conveyed awareness. For several minutes, it remained motionless, then melted into the darkness without sound. This observation confirmed theories. These were conscious beings, capable of independent assessment, and fully aware of human presence. Months of further monitoring revealed additional behaviors: food storage, tool manipulation, structured group movement, and inter-individual coordination. Analysis of the forest suggested these behaviors were long-standing, practiced over decades or longer. At one point, a small child wandered near the original corridor. No harm occurred, yet cameras captured multiple figures in proximity, monitoring from a distance. The scene suggested protective behavior rather than predation. The narrative of these beings shifted. They were not merely elusive, they were careful, aware, and possibly ethical in ways humans could barely grasp. Field scientists, initially fearful, began to respect the creatures as sentient cohabitants of the forest ecosystem. Attempts to establish communication remained rudimentary. Rhythmic knocks, light flashes, and controlled sound pulses yielded responses. Brief, measured, intelligent, but never consistent enough to suggest language as humans know it. The researchers recognized that this interaction was fragile. Misunderstanding could provoke flight or concealment. Over time, the focus moved from capture to observation, from exploitation to coexistence. The original 2 AM footage remained a touchstone, a reminder that discovery often begins with a single, fleeting encounter. The forest and its silent inhabitants had endured. Humans were guests. Observation was privilege, not mastery. And somewhere in the shadows, the creatures continued their lives, unseen, intelligent, and aware, leaving only traces, questions, and the haunting certainty that the unknown still walks among us. No headlines, no viral fame, no resolution. Only the persistent, patient, unseen life of something extraordinary thriving just beyond the reach of human certainty. The mystery persists, not because it is unsolvable, but because it has chosen not to be fully known. And in that choice, it teaches the most profound lesson of all, that some wonders are meant to remain hidden, observed only in fleeting glimpses, leaving humanity to wonder, to question, and to wait. The forest endures, the watchers endure, and the story continues, silently, patiently, in the darkness where humans rarely tread. No one can say how many exist. No one can say how long they have been here, but one thing is certain: they are real, they are intelligent, and they are watching. The footage, the impressions, the hums and knocks, the glimpses from cameras, these are all pieces of a puzzle humanity is only beginning to comprehend. And the forest waits, ever patient, ever silent, holding its secrets just beyond the reach of the waking world. The unknown lives, and it moves carefully, deliberately, as if aware that one wrong step could change everything. And so, as the wind whispers through the trees and shadows shift under the moonlight, one truth remains. Discovery is not about finding. It is about being allowed to witness, however briefly, the persistence of something that has always been there. It waits in the dark, and it is patient. The world may never fully understand, but for those who have glimpsed it, even for a moment, nothing will ever feel quite the same again.